let's go ahead and get started. It's so good to be with all of you here today from everywhere, not only across the US, but throughout the world as well. We're excited to get to come and talk to you about the 1950 census and the release that is happening here in a month, less than a month now. We're counting down. So we're just going to jump right in, and we've got some to share with you, and then we're going to take questions. So with that, we'll go ahead and Jim, if you could start sharing their screen. We're gonna, like I mentioned, we're gonna take a couple of, we're gonna share a little bit with you at first. And just a reminder to stay muted. If you've got questions, you can go ahead and put those questions in the chat. With we're getting close to 500 people here today. So we know the chat's gonna be going fast and furious. So please be sure and put the letter Q before your questions so we can pull out those questions specifically. But we'd like to go ahead and get started by just letting you know who is on the panel today. So we're going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. And as we bring that up. All right, so let's go ahead and introduce the panelists. Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. My name's Ian James. That is a picture of my granddad when he was younger than I am now. Yep, and I'm happy to be here with you. I'm a product manager at FamilySearch and working with a lot of other brilliant people on the 1950 census experience, and specifically around the indexing curation experience that goes with that. So looking forward to talking with you.
Hey guys, I'm Asha Jarvis. This picture is of my great-grandparents on my mother's side, and I'm a user experience designer. I helped build the 1950 census experience for these lovely people.
I'm Jimmy Zimmerman, and I'm an experience manager for our North America area. I'm really excited about the release of the 1950 census, and this is a picture of my grandparents, who I hope to find. They should be living in Compton, California in 1950, so I'm excited to find them.
Hi, my name is Hannah Brooks. I am another user experience designer on this 1950 project. And this is a picture of my grandpa, who was 16 in 1950. And I'm excited to find him and his family in the census.
Hi, my name's John Alexander. I'm a experience manager. I work on the index, corrections, and record improvement. This is a picture of my grandfather. He was actually 21 in 1950, and I know that he served in the Korean War. Fun fact, he was enumerated in the 1940 census twice because he was in a split family, once with his mom and stepdad and another time with his stepbrothers. So I'm excited to see what I can learn about him in 1950.
I'm Jim Erickson. I'm marketing manager for Europe and North America. I'm excited to see where my dad was. He was 20 years old in the 1950 census, and this was him in 1953 with his first wife. And I actually don't know where my dad was living in 1950.
And I am Janelle Vasquez. I'm a program manager for North America. This is my grandpa. He was living in Idaho. I don't know exactly where in Idaho he was living at this time in 1950. And he was having some health issues. And so I'm really curious about his life in 1950 and whether he was working or his wife was working and kind of how that family dynamic was. That was a little bit different in 1950. So I'm excited to find him. So
Okay,
we'll
go ahead.
Yeah, with that, we'll go ahead and turn the time over to you. Thank you.
Okay, so the 1950 census is a unique opportunity for all of us, not just to witness history in 1950, but actually to help
Maybe you can
make
bring them
history,
in here if you want me to copy them.
as we are able to participate and make it so everybody who was enumerated in the 1950 census will be searchable and findable. Who's in it? Over 150 million people were enumerated in the 1950 census, and that's 14.5% growth over the 1940 census. So it's a big growth in the population. A lot was happening. We were in the middle of the baby boom. The 1950 census includes 14 past or future US presidents. That's a huge number of presidents. It also includes some newborns who were born prior to the census in 1950. Karen Carpenter, Julius Irving, William Hurt, Sybil Shepherd, and several others. Some famous Americans. So, you know, from a pop culture perspective, 1950 is really exciting because we know who a lot of these people were in 1950. But the more important question is, who are you going to find? As we introduced ourselves, everybody's important. The members of our family are the ones that are typically closest to us and the ones in which we have the most interest. And as we index this, I think it's important for us to consider, who are we going to find and what questions do we have that might be answered in the 1950 census. Here are a few people. Aretha Franklin was 8 years old, living in Detroit in 1950. It was about 10 years before she moved to New York and started her singing career there. Below her, you have Jimmy Stewart. 1950 was a big year for him. He had a Western out that year, Broken Arrow, as well as Harvey, about the imaginary bunny. The middle frame here is Chuck Norris. Now, Chuck Norris was actually in the 1940 census as a 3-week-old baby. He was born in Oklahoma in 1940. And then next to him, we have Bill Russell, who was actually born in Louisiana, but in 1950, he was playing basketball in high school in Oakland, California. And that was before he was recruited over to the University of San Francisco, before playing for several years for the Boston Celtics. So, you know, it's really interesting as you think of the people who are in the 1950 census to consider their stories and how the 1950 census can tell a little bit about what was happening at that point in their lives. So it's significant. The 1950 census was the first census where computers, modern computers, were actually used in the tabulation process of the enumeration returns. And as we look at what we're doing now with the 1950 census, it's really exciting to consider some of the innovations that are taking place. And we're going to talk about some of those today. First, Jimmy Zimmerman is going to talk a little bit about the timeline and kind of what to expect as the 1950 census is released. Jimmy?
All right. So here we are at Roots Tech, and hopefully many of you have seen the address familysearch.org/1950 census and some of the prior presentations. This is to our landing page where you can sign up to receive updates and sign up to participate in this project. So we encourage you to go there if you haven't already and sign up to become involved in our community project. And there's also some other fun information on that page where you can learn a little bit more about what was happening in the 1950s and some of the aggregate data from the 1950 census that we know. When April 1st comes, I know a lot of people are eager to find out what exactly is going to happen on that April 1st date. And on April 1st, the National Archives releases the images for the census and makes it available for us and others to download those images and to make those available on our website. So we'll start right away with downloading and publishing those images on FamilySearch. If you're familiar with the area on the website under the search menu and images, that's where those images will become available. We'll also, as we complete the ingest of images, we'll put a link right on that 1950 census landing page to be able to go and browse that entire census collection. And so that may take some time depending on the transfer speeds that we're able to get from the National Archives, but you should begin seeing those records appear state by state on our Explore Images experience on FamilySearch. Meanwhile, while those images are being published, we have entered into a great partnership with Ancestry, and you may have heard that Ancestry is using some groundbreaking new technology with automated handwriting recognition that will be taking a first pass at the census and doing an initial indexing. We call that computer-assisted indexing on the images. And they will be sharing that information back over with FamilySearch. And as soon as we're able, we will have the community project available for our volunteers to be able to review and improve the information. And we'll talk a little bit more in detail what that will look like. If you want to get a preview for our review names experience, that's available. We just launched that during Roots Tech. It's found at the Get Involved menu item on FamilySearch. The next thing that will happen is that these records will become available to search on FamilySearch as a state completes. We will make that state searchable under our historical records search at the 1950 census collection. So again, you can be watching that 1950 census page on FamilySearch, and as these events happen, you will be able to see where you can go and search in the states that are searchable. As the entire census collection completes, we will make that available as record hints in the family tree, and we will be releasing some new fun discovery experiences around the 1950 census. So we're excited for this. This is a new approach, and it's going to be awesome.
Thank you, Jimmy. So as Jimmy was talking, I don't know how many of us participated in indexing the 1940 census. If you did, you might remember the excitement. At that point in time, there was actually an indexing application that you downloaded from the website, and then you would download batches that were delivered kind of randomly for whatever state you selected. And there are some significant differences that make indexing or reviewing the index of the 1950 census quite different from what we did in 1940. First of all, as Jimmy mentioned, the images are going to be delivered in the cloud. So instead of going and picking up all of the images from the National Archives on day one on hard drives, we're actually going to be able to transfer those images over the cloud. That's great, other than the fact that everybody is going to be doing the same thing. So Jimmy alluded to this, but it could actually take longer to transfer those records on the cloud than just uploading them from hard drives. So that's going to start on April 1st, and we'll see how long that process takes. And those images will be uploaded and available on other sites. And again, there's this asterisk here because immediately we don't know exactly how fast that'll take place. but we know that Ancestry and others in the family history industry will be doing the same thing and making those images available. And then, as Jimmy explained, as soon as those images have been downloaded, Ancestry is going to be starting their computer-assisted indexing using their new handwriting recognition technology. So they'll be applying machine learning and so forth to create a first pass at the index. And something that makes this process unique is that they're going to be indexing every field. So National Archives will have a name and place index available on day one, again, using computer automation. But this is different than that initiative in that we are going to be indexing every field. And then the significant thing for us is that we're also going to have the human review prior to publication. So there will be this computer generated index, but before we publish it on our websites, we want to make sure that it's as complete and accurate as possible. And that takes us to this slide. So instead of starting with the transcription, we're going to be starting with that computer aided index. So we'll be doing a comprehensive review for accuracy and completeness, and we'll be reviewing and improving upon what the technology is providing for us. So this gives everybody a chance to go in and look at a household and make sure that there aren't errors or to fix anything that the computer may have missed. Something else that's happening this time for the first time ever, as part of this curation or this review process, you can actually search by surname or location. So you can make sure, in Jimmy's case, that all of the Zimmermans in California are done before you move on to the Zimmermans that might have been living in Utah. And you can just go through either by location or by different surnames of interest and find those households. And then if you don't get the households that you wanted, because this process should be fairly quickly, you can still review and improve those once they're published, either on Ancestry or on FamilySearch, because of the technology that we have that allows that to happen now. Another thing that's different is that we have a new method for doing name review, and that's a new Get Involved app. We announced that to the press today. We're going to be talking a little bit more about that here at Roots Tech. But it's actually a downloadable application that allows you to review names on a mobile device. So on your phone, you'll be able to look at the image and look at the names and decide whether or not that's correct. So that's another new enhancement. But like the 1940 initiative, this is a true community-based project. The more people that we can get to come in and review, especially for different localities that people are familiar with, the better it's going to be. We know that we want to produce a quality index that allows everybody to be found. And because of the ability to search by surname and to focus on different localities, we think that this will bring in more people. And the broader the participation, the more this effort will be expedited. And then similarly, the more people we can invite and make aware that this is happening, we think it'll bring people in to look at the 1950 census, but also it might bring more people in to consider family history as something that they might want to try. So that's a little bit about what's different. Again, the key benefits for somebody to come and participate is to be able to review the families in your community to ensure that they're indexed correctly, that they can be found, to enable this rich index that will enable deeper discovery than any other index that's been produced previously, and then to finally accelerate the publication of the complete and accurate index for everyone to enjoy. There are a couple of URLs here to look at. We're inviting you to come and participate, inform and educate others. If you're part of a group or a society, to help prepare them to participate, sharing information on social media, the press, and other outlets. And then we want you to sign up to learn more so you can get updates as this project is happening. There's a general landing page at FamilySearch.org/1950 census, as Jimmy mentioned. And then there's one for groups and societies. That URL is a little bit longer, but you can see that here. And now we're going to be talking more about this experience. And Hannah, who is one of the UX designers that introduced herself, is going to be talking about the actual experience that you're going to have. Hannah?
Awesome. Thanks, Jim. So this is the 1950 US Census page that will be part of the Get Involved experience, which launched yesterday. And there's a lot of Roots-like videos about that if you're curious about what this resides, but it'll be displayed alongside indexing. And so if you're used to going somewhere to find indexing, this will be in the same place. So the main image of this experience is the map component, and that will be updated regularly with the progress of each state and how far along they've been reviewed. And so you can see there's probably going to be a lot of different shades of colors, and you can immediately go and see how far along your state is. And so after you select a state, either through the map or through the dropdown, you'll be able to choose one of our 3 experiences to be able to go through and review and curate the information that was indexed. And so the 3 different experiences are review families, which is the most similar to indexing, just a regular going through every single household and reviewing every single piece of information within that household. So that's very similar to indexing. And that's our flagship experience. That's where we want people to spend the most time. It's also the longest experience that we're having available. So if you don't have enough time to come in and dedicate time to reviewing an entire household, we will also have 2 other experiences which are smaller. The first one is review document header. And this is to just look at the information that's along the top of the census form, which is the enumeration information, the location information, anything that people would need to be able to nail down the specific location of the census form. And then the last experience is review individual names. And so this is something that we are already using on FamilySearch to review different documents. And so this is just going through and reviewing the spelling of individual names within the census form. And so this is just serving to have a second look at all the names to make sure those are spelled right, because that's going to be the most important part to be able to help people find their families, is the spelling of those names. So after you choose one of these 3 experiences, you'll be able to start a search, and the search has the state, which you'll be used to from previous censuses, as well as we're excited to be able to have the feature of being able to search by last name. And so with this, like Jim was mentioning earlier, you'll be able to go do the Zimmermans in California or any last name in any state. And you won't always have results. And so we'll have some alternate results for you if you can't find what you're looking for. But we're excited to be able to have that opportunity to be able to let you guys work on what you want to work on. And that's something that we're really excited about through Get Involved, is that there's so much more customization that you were able to do before. And you'll be able to really either work on families that you know, or work on neighbors of families that you know, or just work within specific last names and get those to completion. And then the last thing that we're excited about with Get Involved is showing off your contributions. And so you'll be able to see here in the bottom blue section that you can see your contributions divided by state. And the 3 different stats there are the 3 different experiences that we have. So you'll be able to see which states you've been helping out and be able to share that with your friends and family and be able to really include everyone in this process. So yeah, that's what we're excited to show off in the Get Involved portion. Then Ashley is going to go through the actual curation process.
Right, so in the family review section, first we're going to ask you guys, volunteers, to first identify the household members. So household, that could mean relatives like the head, the wife, son, daughter. It could also mean grandparents, just whoever is living in that same house with that individual. If these, in this example, we have Alexander Gatson. Since he's at the very bottom of the census record, it's possible that his family continues on to the next page. So after clicking next on the first screen on the left, you'll see on the right, we'll ask, hey, do you see any more family members on the next page? If you click yes, you'll be able to identify who those family members are, or just continue forward. Jim, would you move to the next page? From after that point, the rest of the census will go from right to left. The census is in a table format. We'll be asking you to review the information about the street names, about the spellings. Just identify that what you see on the form is exactly what you see on the computer AI indexed version. After you're done with the entire experience, we'll thank you. You're welcome to share your experience if you want, and you'll be able to continue with that surname and location. In the case that that surname is finished, we'll give you suggestions on where to go next, like Hannah was saying. If you're done, if that location like Texas is completely done, then we'll give you other locations to look at. Jim.
So that is really great information. I applaud the work that both Hannah and Ashley have done in designing this experience. We're now going to move on to the question and answer phase of our session, and Janelle is going to help with moderating that.
All right. Thanks so much, everyone. Great information. So let's just jump into our questions. Our first question is for John. So this is one we see all the time. Everybody wants to know, when are we going to be able to get started? How long is it going to take the handwriting recognition software to create the index? And so, yeah, and so when will we be able to actually get started reviewing?
That question's going to me. All right, Janelle. So here's how we're answering that question. There are several steps, and some of them really technically challenging. And because we're working with partners, there's exchanges of data. So a lot of really amazing things have to happen in short amount of time for us to be able to make this available to you. We are doing everything we can to make that be as soon as possible. And so in kind of best case scenario for us, we'll be starting within just a few days into April. And worst case scenario, it's a few days after that. But we're going to be posting and making people aware of exactly where we are. We're going to try, somebody asked a question earlier, for 1940, we did a test state of Delaware and got that done really quickly to make sure everything was working correctly. We're going to have an initial state up and ready that we want people to help us get done and look at, make sure all the tools are working correctly. And again, we're hoping that, within these first few days in April, we'll be able to start on that. But it's really hard for us to pick a day and make a commitment because of all of the things that have to happen.
Thanks, John. Thanks, John. Other questions about, where do I go to sign up, and will I get an email notification when it launches? Jim, can you tell us about that one?
Sure. So right now, if you want to see where things are, and you can continue to come back to the same page, we've made it as easy as we could, FamilySearch.org/1950 census. That page is going to continue to evolve throughout the process. So as we get to different stages, the messaging on the page will change. As we get the images available, like Jimmy said, we'll let you know that the images are available. When the project launches, it'll be available on that page. Right now, if you go to the page, you can sign up to get updates as things get closer. So that's where to go. That's the easy thing to do.
Thanks. All right, this next question is for Jimmy. So there's some questions about NARA. What does it mean that NARA is publishing an automated index? And what's the difference between what FamilySearch is doing and what NARA is doing?
Yeah, so the National Archives, they're taking a different approach this year with the release of the 1950 census, and it's pretty exciting. On April 1st, they plan to launch a new 1950 census website, and they're using also a computer-assisted index technology to get an initial index of names. And from my understanding of what they've published, their website will allow you to search by name and place to hopefully be able to find a record in the 1950 right on April 1st. They have some webinar dates posted for on their website. I believe on March 30th, they're doing a webinar to talk about their website coming up. But that's exciting. And they are asking also for volunteers to come and help improve their name index. The difference between what they are doing and what we're working on is that we are trying to create a full index of the 1950 census, not just the names. So every field to be able to provide a more rich discovery experience for genealogists, family historians, and others to be able to make use of the 1950 census.
Thanks, Jimmy. There's some really good questions in here about what the enumerators did and what kind of transcriber errors there might be. There are some things that we at FamilySearch don't exactly know. How common are transcriber errors, and one is actually was the informant on the 1950 census identified, and so some of these things we won't. We're getting information from NARA to be able to answer some of those questions. Some things we won't know until the census is actually released. But NARA does have some webinars that they will be doing over the coming month. And I think I saw in the chat somebody had put the website into NARA's the link into NARA's website, so we can you can check things out there if we can't answer that question here. So,
Hey, Janelle, can I answer a question?
Yeah,
so
go for it.
We've had a couple people ask. We know from years past and looking at census records that often the enumerator will input data incorrectly, or the informant was misinformed. Like, for example, for some reason, whenever a man, head of household, gives information, we tend to see more kinds of errors around ages and things like that. And, when the mom answers the door, things tend to be more accurate. Just an observation for people. But what in this initial review, we're trying to go back to like a long adage we've had in indexing around key what you see. Even though you may be looking, and we hope you find families and things that and you may see errors or things that were misinput either by the enumerator or the informant. We want you to put what it says on the record. Later, and not long later, when we publish these full indexes on our website, we'll have ways for you to say that, hey, I know that this says William, but this was my Uncle Buck, and everybody always called him Buck his whole life, and I didn't even know his name was William, kind of things. And you can put that in as a type of error. That way we can have clear in our data what the actual census record says versus, other information that people might have that makes it more findable, et cetera. So during the review, we're going to be asking that we match the census image as closely as possible.
Thanks, John. And this next question is actually going to go to you as well. There are a lot of people who want to just review everything in a page or a town or even an enumeration district. Will they be able to do that? Yeah,
so we are taking a different approach as years pass. So in previous years, like for 1940 or other censuses, typically we would give you one full image, and that would be a batch. And so like in 1940, I think there were 40 people, and people would key in all of those. Because of the way that the computer is reading it and we have some information ahead of time for 1950, and we're not using the word batch the same, but each batch, if you bear with me, is a single household. And so we're going to be able, you can put in a surname, like in my case, Alexander, and we'll take you to that next Alexander household, even if it's in the middle or the bottom of an image. And when you finish that household, you have a couple of choices. You're going to be able to say, well, I want to move on to the next Alexander household. And that could be 30 pages away. That could be a long time away. Or you can also say, hey, I just want to keep working on this same image and move on to the next household down. And so we kind of have both of those options for people. And we're hoping that with a combination of those two, we're going to be able to get full images completed, all of the households, and eventually full enumeration districts and full cities and states and things like that. So, we may get to a point where, hey, all of the Alexanders in New Hampshire, Vermont, where my family is, are going to be done. And so then I'm going to have a choice. Do I move on to other surnames, or do I start working on their friends and neighbors? And those are the choices we're trying to give people so they can work how and where they want.
Awesome. Thanks, John. Thanks. So this next one's for Jimmy. When exactly will I be able to search the completed index on FamilySearch?
Yeah, so as a state completes, and you saw in Hannah's slide that there were 3 activities to be done for each state. So as the household review is completed and the header information on all of the forms are completed, and we get that state to 100%, that will bring us to a process to publish that state on FamilySearch. As well, we will be sharing this back with Ancestry, and we plan to publish those states on our websites at a certain time after it completes, as quickly as possible. And so there is likely some additional processing that we'll need to do on those records before they are searchable on the websites. But as quickly as we can, as those states complete, we'll be publishing those on the website. So our 1950 census collection on FamilySearch will update state by state as those are completed.
Awesome. Great, thank you. So some questions about our partnership with Ancestry on this. When volunteers, this is for Jim, when volunteers are making corrections on FamilySearch, will they be seen on Ancestry as well?
So the initial review will be made available to both FamilySearch and Ancestry. At that point, we both have separate systems for making corrections and enhancements. So we'll be sharing the initial index, but I think after that, the experiences will diverge.
Can I comment on that as well? So we do plan to share ongoing updates on those record corrections that happen on that collection, but it won't be instantaneous. You won't see those changes reflected across both websites at the same time. So, but we do plan to share continuing updates on the 1950 census as those happen. From when you search and find a family, you can still make corrections there and improve the index even after published.
Thank you. And what will happen with the images? Will the images and indexes both be published on both sites?
I can answer that. Yes, images and indexes will be published on both sides.
Thanks, Jim. All right, this one's for Ian. So lots of indexers have been indexing for a long time and are super excited about the release. Will the numbers here be added to their indexing numbers, their statistics?
Yes, they will. And as Hannah pointed out, there will be some statistics that are specific to 1950. And then that stuff, when the project is done, we'll fold all of that in and keep it going forward, and it will definitely count.
Will they be seen as, they'll all be displayed in the same place? Will they be seen as separate numbers, or will they be all added together?
We're working out the details of how it will all be displayed. Probably both. We'll probably fold it in and it'll all be seen together at that point. And there will also be something that says, hey, you contributed in the 1950 census, and here's what you did in the 1950 census.
Thank
Hopefully
you.
that answers that.
Yeah. All right, so there were some additional schedules besides just the general population schedule that were published. And so people want to know about military serving overseas. Will they be on, will they be included? Jim?
Yes, so the project that we're going to be working on is the 48 states that were states in 1950. So the other territories will also be published, but they're going to be published through a different method or at a later time. The other schedules, unfortunately, a lot of those schedules no longer exist. So in 1950, it was the first time that they were enumerating at embassies and people on ships and people in the military. Unfortunately, those records are no longer extant, according to the National Archives. So I know that's disappointing for a lot of people. It was the first census year where they actually took the forethought to enumerate all those people, but with the different forms and so forth, a lot of those forms are no longer surviving.
So what about the US territories like Alaska, Hawaii, Puerto Rico?
They will all be included. Again, they're not going to be included as part of this project necessarily, but they will be published and made available.
All right, so here's a question about the Get Involved app. They are wondering, will the Get Involved app work on the computer as well as on a mobile phone? Ian?
Yes. So there are, if you cast your mind back to the demo that Hannah showed us, there were 3 different activities that you could participate in as part of reviewing the 1950 census. There was a family review, there was a review of the page header, and there was reviewing individual names. All 3 of those will be things that you can do on the desktop. But the header review and the name review, those 2 will be available on the mobile app. The family review, there's just a lot of information and a lot of real estate that you kind of need to be able to see a whole family at once. Excuse me. And so as of right now, our plan is just to have that one on the desktop, but the other 2 will be on both.
Awesome, that'll be great. I'm excited to be able to just pull out my phone at the grocery store and do a little bit while I'm waiting in line. That'll be great.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an interesting question. How much, this is for John. So how much do we think is going to need to be manual input versus fixing errors?
It's a great question. We have some idea of the quality output of the computer, and it actually varies field by field. The computer gets a better score. We call it a score, but it's just how correct they are. on certain kinds of fields. It does really well on yes or no fields. Like in the supplemental questions, there's the questions, did you serve in World War I? Yes or no? And did you serve in World War II? Great questions for genealogists. We love those questions. And the computer does really well because it's just reading if there's an X or not. So, but on street addresses in the 1950 census, it's the only field that's written vertically up and down the side margin of 1950. And we believe that we'll have a lower quality, or it'll be more likely to be incorrect on fields like that. And so those are the kinds of fields, and we'll be able to rotate the image, or people might have to read like this, but those kinds of fields are the ones where we expect you'll need to do more correcting. And we hope that as you go through and review these households, you'll start to get a sense of what's typically more correct and what's not. And then of course there are other factors for the computer, like how clear and dark is the pen or pencil that they used, how much smudges or how many times did they cross out and write above the line. All of those kinds of things the computer can struggle with, and that's really why we need people. A person can come in and look and understand what had happened where somebody crossed out and do their best to give us an accurate transcription. Just to give you an idea, the percentage of accuracy could range anywhere from as low as 60% accurate, meaning that, 4 out of 10 times it would be wrong, all the way up to 95 or even higher percent accuracy. So in some cases, it's the computer is very, very accurate, and there's a low chance you'd have to change anything. You still get a chance to look at it and say yes or no, but that's kind of the range. But we're tracking it field by field. So one other comment, sorry, I'm rambling. We're actually going to be using the data you give us, or we hope to. Every time you make a correction, it tells us that the computer was wrong. And we track all of that in a history. So, and we're going to make that history available to you. So even after we publish these indexes, we'll say the original computer read this as this name. And then on this date at this time, indexer Susie changed it to this. And then if anybody else makes corrections in the future, we'll be able to see that change history. And we hope to be able to use that history over time to teach the computer to get better. Because we'll say, hey, computer, you said this, it was wrong, but our users are good and right, and they said this, and that's what the real thing is. And we're hoping that in the future, that's how we're going to get better at doing this more accurately and faster. So
that's so exciting. Thanks, John. So I have a question now, actually, for any of the panelists as well as the attendees. I'd love to see your comments in chat. Review and indexing and these kinds of activities, we do them on our computers, and it can be a really solitary activity. So we want to break out of that mold, and we want to encourage all of you to find a friend, review with a friend. So we'd like to ask the panelists, as well as to have the attendees put in the chat, who are you going to review with? Are you going to review with a group of people? Are you going to review as a friend or your family? What do you guys think?
I'll probably review with my mom. She's actually just started taking a real interest in family history, and her parents are going to be in the census, and she loves them dearly, and they're both gone now. And so I think that it'll be a really good opportunity to work with her and to help her feel them a little bit closer. So that's what I'll be going through with.
I plan to probably over a Zoom call review with my sister, with my older sister. She loves doing this as well. So we'll go through the first few few activities together.
That'll be fun. I hope to encourage my boys to review with me. We'll see how successful that will be, but it'll be fun. Hannah, were you going to jump in? I saw you come off mute.
Yeah, I'm excited to review it with my grandma. She's a master indexer, and I hope I can learn some better handwriting recognition from her because she's awesome.
Our society, this is Sharon from North Collin County Genealogy Society in McKinney, Texas. And our society is going to do it as a group, and we hope to have lots of parties.
Awesome, Sharon. Thanks. We hope so too. All right, Ashley, I have a question for you now. How are households going to work for institutions that are filled with a lot of unrelated individuals like prisons or nursing homes?
That's a great question. So for those situations, if you don't want to take the time to do it, we have a chance to skip forward. For those who do want to do it, they're going to be organized in at least with prisons, it'll be one household to the warder of the house, who will be the head. John might have a better idea how it'll be organized for those in hospitals.
Yeah, we struggled with this in 1942, but essentially it will just be one giant household. And there are extreme cases where a household lasts pages and pages. Some of the largest hospitals in the country, like Boston, are huge. They have like 5,000 patients. So we're not sure exactly what those look like, but some of those are some of the challenges we have to figure out and make sure that it works in the tool. But right now it's just that's whoever gets that household is going to have a piece of work in front of them. But we may need to break it up or do different things, but those are some of the questions that we're going to be answering and figuring out as the data comes and we look at what they are.
So one thing to add with that, let's say that somebody does happen to land on like a 5,000 person household that goes pages and pages. As they start that and start looking at fields in that, and John, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but all of those reviews get saved like as it happens. And so somebody, like if they get through like a couple thousand or that's probably like way too much. They get through like 50 and they're like, okay, like maybe I bit off more than I can chew. Somebody coming back in behind them who would pick that up, they would not have to review all those fields. They basically pick up where the first person left off, right?
Any household, if somebody stops somewhere, we don't save field by field. I want to be totally clear about this. We save panel by panel, which is typically a group of 3 to 4 fields. But yes, like if you get through, a couple 50 or 100 in a huge household, or even if, let's say it's a household of 8 people and you're only able to review the first 4, and then, the postman or somebody knocks on the door and you get up and don't make it back, then the next person either working through that image or searching on that surname will pick up right where you left off. That's the way it will work. So.
Thank you.
So I'm seeing in the chat, people are asking if they can sign up for like the really big stuff. And that's actually a great idea. Maybe that's something that we should consider like adding in.
I saw that and I'm like, yes, yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, we might need that. So
Jim, here's one for you. There are, and I haven't seen this in the chat, but I heard elsewhere, there are some indexers out there who are really sad actually about the fact that we're not indexing this by hand, that it's just a review. What would you say to them?
That is one of the things that is challenging with new technology and new innovations. It especially when we're familiar with something and we've learned to love it. We have a lot of very dedicated indexers who have been doing this for a very long time. Our goal, though, is to help people find their family as quickly as possible. And especially with what we're doing now with handwriting recognition and artificial intelligence. That was one of the questions that was in the chat is, is this just basically an OCR? No, it's way more intelligent than that. We're able to identify what pieces of a record are names and things like that. And we're looking at inferring relationships and things like that. And for a lot of the records, so a census record is actually a pretty straightforward record because it is tabular. But without these innovations, a lot of the records that are just locked up as images today would never be able to be indexed. So it's difficult because it's something new. But if you look at the big picture and how we can help more people find their family and find really important details about their family, without this innovation and without new technology and new methods, it would take just much, much longer. The US Wills and Deeds, which is the first collection that we're launching in the US, is a great example of that, where the names are embedded in paragraphs. If you think of some of the communities that have a hard time doing family history, such as, unfortunately, there were people that were sometimes included as property in those wills and deeds, they'll be able to start finding some of those people. So yes, it's difficult. It's change is always difficult, and we love the people who've dedicated so much time to become really expert at indexing. Indexing is going to be around. It's not going away. So don't think that indexing is on its last legs or anything. There's some collections that indexing is a requirement, but we think that this is a new activity that can draw in more people, and for the right record sets, it can make records available that wouldn't be available any other way. So
Thanks, Jim. Yeah, we love our indexers, absolutely. All right, this one's for you, Hannah. We just have a couple minutes left, so we may just have a couple more questions, but a couple questions that we've seen about searching, right? So if I want to work on one surname, can I choose a surname within a location? That's part one. And part two is, can I choose a location but not enter a surname? Can I choose a location without a surname?
Right. So you'll have to choose a location in order to review anything. So you have to choose a state, but you can choose to review anyone within a state. So if you want to work on like Rhode Island or a really small state that has less people, you can choose that, or any big state. And you can choose to add a surname to any location, which is, we're really excited about that, to be able to really zone in those searches so you can work on what you want to work on. But yes, you can choose either location or surname.
Thank you. All right, and this question is probably for John and Ian, but we'll kind of open it up. After the 1950 census is complete, will this software and technology be used with other projects that we haven't indexed yet?
Absolutely. Just to continue with what Jim was saying, there are some collections of records that we're going to be waiting decades and maybe longer to try, and if we have to wait to attack them with human indexing, right? Just because of how difficult they are and all these other things. And this is one of the places that we're really hoping that the computers can help us out. The idea isn't that the computers replace our indexers or replace us at making the records good. We're looking for kind of a harmonious balance between the two, where the computers can do what they're really good at and the people can do what they're really good at, and we can make those things complement each other. That's really what we're pulling for here.
So one thing to add, and I'm going to pontificate a little bit. I sometimes get in trouble for doing this. We have almost 5 billion images, individual images from records all around the country. We have only been able to index 1.2 billion of those images. So about 20% has been indexed. Our goal with this technology in the coming years is that every image we have has an index that was created by a computer and is improved and reviewed by our people over time. And so when you kind of look at it as our global problem, with all of the records that we have hundreds of millions of Chinese Jiapu records that are impossible to index in our current tool and all these different things. And so globally, absolutely, we plan on applying this technology everywhere over time. And we think it's going to totally transform the research process as well as the experience. And like Ian said, we think our testing is telling us that it's a better experience. So we're excited about that. And we hope you guys feel that in 1950. And we want your feedback. This is early. We're still learning. We want you to tell us what's not working, and we're going to make it better as we go. So.
Thank you. Thanks to our panelists, and thanks so much to all of our attendees. We really appreciate your support, your feedback, your thoughts, ideas, and questions. We know we didn't get to all of your questions, so we have a chat group for this session as well as other areas where you can come and ask questions about also the booth. Let's point you to the booth too. The 1950 booth in the expo hall includes additional videos and a chat where you can chat with members of this team and additional members that you didn't get to meet here on the panel today. We've got a lot of people at FamilySearch who are really just as excited as you are about this release and working hard to make it the best it can be. So we're excited about that. We're excited about our partnership with Ancestry and so many of the innovations that are coming. So everyone, have a wonderful rest of Roots Tech and enjoy your time. Thank you.